Howdy, y'all. Greetings, salutations. Welcome in. It's that time of year, that last time of year, that time of the month, even. Welcome into Whispering in the Dark, number 23. If you're watching or listening, this is more of a listen kind of thing anyway. We're live currently on Rumble, Twix, and YouTube. If you're in any of those places, let us know. Put something in the comments. This is going to be kind of a chill stream. I'm not sure exactly what we'll be talking about tonight. There's a lot of shit going on in the world, but it's also the end of the year, which is usually a time of reflection for a lot of people. I'm feeling a bit whimsical tonight. I also might sneeze into the mic, so forgive me ahead of time. Howdy, JB. Welcome in. Good to see you. Oh, 1 second. Well, it wasn't into the microphone, but be glad you didn't hear that. That was gross. No, we got old Blondie in the chat. Howdy. Whispering in the Dark. Man, you've been around for long enough to know what's up with this. This is a once a month stream. For those who don't know, it's a once a month stream we do at the end of the month. Started doing this kind of regularly last December, as a matter of fact. It's been 1 year since we started doing this every month. And now it's been a year. Thank you, JB. Appreciate it. It was hideous. It was ugly. I'm glad I have tissues, right? Yeah. And also, I don't know what you mean by we scream on Thursdays. Like sometimes I stream on Thursdays, but screaming happens on Saturdays. Musing happens on Fridays. So no, this has happened to be a good night for it. I happen to have tonight off. So we can get into it a little earlier than I normally would. And only so many days before the end of the year, is in tonight and tomorrow. So yeah, that's about it. Howdy, Clifton. Welcome in, and good morning. I did get your message. I will get back to you shortly. I think we might be able to arrange something actually as early as next month. But also welcome in, and thanks for putting up on my shenanigans in your chat earlier today or yesterday. It was yesterday. I don't know. Time all runs together when you're not at work. I haven't been at work in like 4 days because I had to take some personal days because it's sort of a use them or lose them kind of situation, and I only had so much time in which to use them, obviously. So I ended up taking yesterday and today and all that. But I will be taking some forced vacation next month as well. I mean, it's not forced exactly. I just keep getting yelled at because I'm sitting on a shitload of paid vacation time that I'm not doing anything with. My boss is like, man, if I had the option to not be here and get paid for it, I would. And it's like every other time I talk to him, he says something about that. So I was like, all right, fine. I'll finally take some vacation. So yeah, Clifton, I got some Mondays coming up towards the end of January, middle to the end of January. I'll let you know and all that. This makes streams fun. Yeah. I appreciate it. So but yeah, tonight's not anything like, I don't have like special topics tonight. I just wanted to hang out and chill a little bit. We probably won't go forever. It just kind of depends on how things roll out. But I was just thinking, was listening to some news earlier today, and there's apparently shit's heating up overseas, and it's a mess. It's a mess. The whole thing's a damn mess. I figure if everybody focused on their own countries and their own people, everybody'd be better off. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case. So I don't know if love is the word I would use, old Blondie. I like it. It affords me certain things that I wouldn't get in a regular another kind of job rather. Um, like I don't have to talk to anybody I don't want to. I'm vested so that when I retire, I get paid for the rest of my life. Um, Lots of paid time off. I'm sitting on like 2.5 months of sick time just in case something happens. So I have some benefits that are pretty good. It'd be nice if it paid a little bit better, but it is what it is. So, and I'm sure my local folks wouldn't necessarily agree that I'm not being paid enough on account of it's taxpayer money that pays me. So I do have a government job, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Iran might be free soon. Yeah, we'll see. They have a revolution every like 30 to 40 years, and then shit shifts dramatically. So it might just be time for that, you know. Um, and honestly, I don't really care. I don't really care what happens in Iran. You know, as far as I'm concerned, it's Iran's problem, not mine, and certainly not my country's. People running my country have a different opinion on this, but yeah, as far as I'm concerned, America first means America only. To hell with the rest of the world. Everybody should be looking out for themselves, in my opinion, instead of getting involved in everybody else's business. So, and all that. But yeah, there's a possibility. There's a possibility that the current regime is going to fall soon. I'm not counting my chickens. It may happen. It may not. It's certainly looking like the populace is leaning that way, but it wouldn't be the first time they've been put down by the government either. So, it is what it is. We'll see what happens. I like that German politicians are being banned from traveling to the USA. You know what? Actually, it's happening with apparently a lot of other countries, like England, same deal. There are certain politicians there who are not allowed to step foot in American soil right now either, which is interesting because we have military bases and embassies in Germany, in all throughout Europe. Really, I don't know that we have. No, I think we have military bases in England too, and in the UK as well. And all that is technically U.S. soil. So I mean, I don't know. Are we going to hold on to that? Are we going to pull out? What's going on with that? But we're not going to give it up. U.S. never gives up anything. So Shah Iran was and could be a serious U.S. ally that is extremely beneficial versus terrorist funding and supplying Ayatollah. Okay, so I agree that the Shah was better in general than the Ayatollah. He wasn't perfect. He was a bit of a douchebag, actually, but the citizens were certainly freer under him. I don't know that I would call any nation an ally of the United States. I don't believe we have allies. I believe that we have parasites and we have puppet states and we have enemies. And where they fall in there, you know, whatever. But I don't believe that the U.S. has allies. I think that's a misnomer. That's an erroneous word choice. So, uh, hi, Aaron Laura, welcome in. So, I would be okay with U.S. taking over their vassal states. I mean, that'd be like half the planet, if we're being perfectly honest. you know, we have shit everywhere. There's a specific military base, I forget which one, where they can deploy to anywhere in the world within 12 hours, right, of getting hey, you're going there. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. So, yeah, Shah was corrupt, but as far as the ally stuff goes, I mean, he was a puppet. He was a puppet, but he wasn't a good enough puppet. I mean, if you recall, the whole reason that the Ayatollahs got in there in the first place was because we backed them to revolt against the Shah to depose him and install our own government, which was supposed to be friendlier to us than he was. Right. So we'll see what happens, I guess. So all that, but Anywho, yeah, I don't know. I don't. As far as I'm concerned, not just the U.S. I would prescribe this for the entire world. Actually, it's like everybody in the world needs to wash their hands of the Middle East in its entirety. You know, just designated a no-go zone. Nobody in, nobody out. To hell with all of them. You know, and then just go about our lives like they're not really there. Because they're just going to keep killing each other over there. They're just going to keep doing it. I know Trump keeps saying, "Oh, peace in the Middle East for the first time in the last 3,000 years," which is a lie, right? And it's not a lie because of the there's been peace other times. There hasn't been. There's only ever been moments where the whoever was opposing who during those moments had time to catch their breath and resupply and rearm and regroup. That's all it's ever been. Middle East is cursed to drown in blood forever, you know, and nobody over there really wants to stop fighting. I know Israel says they do, but I don't believe that they're any different than anybody else over there. As far as I'm concerned, the Syrians are really the only honest ones about it. Honestly, if you go back, their history goes back 4 or 5,000 years, back to when there was an A in front of their name, Assyria, and those people have fighting and killing in their blood, and they always have. They will fight for the highest bidder. They will fight their neighbors. And if they don't have any neighbors who currently want to fight, they will fight each other. They're constantly fighting, but they make no bones about it. They make no bones about it. They don't go around saying, "Oh yeah, we really want peace." So yeah, I'm just Carter-backed Khomeini. Yeah. The CIA didn't. Or the CIA, I don't know. I think the CIA did. Actually, the CIA did back Khomeini. What's the current guy's name? Khomeini or Khomeini or Khomeini? I don't know. It's very similar to the other guy's name. It's slightly different. Yeah, I mean, what's Lebanon but a little strip of land between like Syria and Jordan and Israel, right? I mean, you remember that mess in Beirut back in the early 90s, right? That was, I don't know. Like I said, I don't think anybody in the Middle East is getting out of there alive. Not really. I don't think anybody there wants to. I think that it's and they've proven this. As much as I'd rather they stop killing each other. I really would. It would be great if they would just all stop doing the killing. It'd be fantastic. But I do not believe that they want to or that they're willing to. And I think that because we cannot convince them otherwise, we need to wash our hands of all of them. So, yeah, here's the thing too. Like Eastern Europe has blood feuds, right? They're famous for it, right? Like they talk about Chechens, like the reason you don't fuck with Chechens or any of those guys, like Eastern Europeans, they're legendarily vengeful. I mean, across generations, right? And yet somehow they manage to mostly not spill that shit over their borders into other people's problems. Middle Easterners, not so much. They'll take it everywhere. And in fact, they prefer to take it everywhere because they think everybody's problems should be everybody's problems. And I disagree. So plus religious zealots. Yeah, well, I mean, it is the cradle of the major desert cults, isn't it? All three of them. I'm going to say something that's a little hot under the collar here. The reason I call them desert cults is because they all stem from the same region and the same basic origin, right? They're just various iterations of basically the same thing, in my opinion. All three of the major desert cults, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. All three of them seek exactly the same thing. They are just currently using different means to achieve said things. What are those things, you might ask? Utter domination and control of everyone else. And if they can't control them, if they can't convert them, they will destroy them. Plain and simple, right? They're just using different means. The Islamists are using the same shit that they've used for, I don't know, 900 years, maybe longer, 1600 years, something like that. Although they've recently dipped into the political angle of it with the, poor us, you're an Islamophobe, you need to help us and all that stuff until they have a high enough population to start turning the votes their way. And then it becomes a problem. Look at England, look at Germany, look at France. Canada is getting there. Australia, but then they revert to medieval brutality, right? And elsewhere where they already control regions, it's still, medievally brutal. I mean, there are a couple of exceptions where it's not quite so on the nose, right? Indonesia, for example, or, Qatar likes to keep their shit swept under the rug. It still happens there. It's not so out in the open. Saudi Arabia is kind of hard to get a read on because they basically keep all eyes out of their country. So you have no idea how much shit is going on there. Maybe it's less, maybe it's more. We don't really know. And they're not, it's not like they're being honest with the numbers. But yeah, it's just, so, I mean, Islam is, and they've stated multiple times. I mean, hell, the Muslim Brotherhood, who I'm only mentioning here because they seem to be the major push behind most of the major terrorist organizations that are Islam focused. But it's important to keep in mind they are not, in fact, a governing body, right? They're not, in fact, like religious leaders. They're just basically activists with bombs, terrorists. But I mention them because their whole stated goal is to convert or destroy the entire rest of the world, right? They say it right out in the open. Now the Christians say, hey, we want to convert everybody in the world to this, and we're going to tell everybody in the world about Jesus, and if they reject him, then they'll burn in hell. And it's like, well, they wouldn't if you didn't tell them about him, would they? Right? I think that's kind of sneaky. They're doing it through explanatory pamphlets and door-to-door sales, which to my mind is insidious. As far as Israel goes, and I need to qualify this because I am on YouTube, but I don't believe that every Jew in the world has a nefarious agenda any more than I believe that every Muslim wants to blow everybody up, or that every Christian wants to smite the heads off the unbelievers, right? I don't believe that that's true of every single individual. But there are cabals of people working behind the scenes to effect a change that places them at the top of the heap. It is happening. I mean, the porn industry entirely dominated by Jewish people. Half the people in Washington are either beholden to or are Jews themselves. A lot of whom have dual citizenship with a foreign nation. They shouldn't be in office in the first place, in my opinion. But there you go. The WEF, right, has a lot of Jewish influence. And again, I'm not saying that Jews are the problem. I'm saying that certain people who happen to fall into that category are not good people, right? They do have this supremacist ideology, this whole Zion will be the kingdom of the whole world and they'll be sitting at the top of the heap kind of thing. They all have the same goal. All three of these religions have to share exactly the same goal. It's just the methods that differ currently. So hi Jacob, welcome in. It's not the most cookies. I mean, look, this is how I know it's nefarious, right? And I'm being a little facetious here. When I was 16, 17 years old, a friend of mine who was a born again was like, "Well, you need to come to my youth group. And I want you to come to my youth group, see what it's like, do all the things at the youth group." And I was like, "I'm not doing that. You guys are all about Jesus. I'm not about Jesus." Yes, I was, away from religion even at that age, earlier, in fact. And she goes, "Well, I'll bake you some fresh cookies if you come." She bribed me with cookies. I agreed to go because there were going to be fresh cookies. I went. I sat through the sing-alongs. I did all the, "Hey, how you doing? Welcome in" bullshit. I shook some hands and I was very pleasant. I smiled at the right moments and all that stuff. And she came up to me and she was like, "Oh, it's not as bad as you thought, right? I bet you really enjoyed it." I was like, "Where's my cookies? You promised me cookies. I am only here because you said cookies." She did, in fact, keep her end of the bargain. She brought the cookies, but she was really disappointed in me that that was the only reason I showed up. Excuse me. I'd agree, Aaron. I'd agree. It is. It's disappointing, is what it is. Because the God of Abraham demands a higher standard in a person, right? And the Old Testament God of Abraham was a brutal fucker, but the whole point is to be better than you are, right? Not drag everybody else down in the muck. And I think that every one of his followers, on whichever side of the fence they happen to fall on, falls far short of that. Some of them are really good people who try their best. I don't have any issue with those guys. But a lot of them are not. They see it as a numbers game. They're looking for points. They're scoring. So it is what it is. These were, I believe, if I remember correctly, I think they were chocolate chip macadamia nut. They were very good, and they were fresh baked, so they were like chewy and moist. So good, so good. Worth an evening of discomfort, in my opinion. And I was uncomfortable. I've always been uncomfortable in places where they were like, "You need to be like us, or you're going to hell." So. And all that, but yeah, it's and like I said, I don't have any problem with individuals who practice any of those faiths. That's if I did, I couldn't be possibly both friends with Larry and Amira, who are a Christian and a Muslim respectively, right? I know Larry doesn't do a lot of talking about it, out in the open, but when he does talk about it, you can tell the man's very strong in his faith and all that. But he and I can be friends because I don't, in large part because I'm very seeing the individual and not, the paint that they plaster themselves with. And Larry's a good man, and he does his level best to be a good man, and that's I suppose all anybody can ask of anyone, really. Amira hasn't threatened to blow me up recently, so there's that. So no, Larry's Christian. Larry's Christian. Amira is Muslim. All that. And honestly, by the tenets of both of their faiths, they shouldn't have any truck with me at all. None. Because I don't share their faith. But you go back far enough and there's like smite the unbeliever and, don't hang out with people who do this or say this or, whatever. And I fit most of those categories most days. So it is what it is. And historically, people like me, we don't. So here's the thing: like, not only do pagans and heathens not proselytize because it's very distasteful to us. To me, I should say. I can't speak for everybody, but it's very distasteful to me to willfully attempt to convince someone that everything that they believe is wrong because you said so, because your book said so, because your God said so. Right. I find that wrong. I'm just going to leave it at that. Just wrong. Right. So we don't do that. We don't go door to door and say, "Hey, have you heard the good word about, like, I don't know, Morrigan?" We'll just pull a god name out of our ass. We don't go around doing that shit. People come to us if they wanna join. That's part of why there aren't that many of us in the first place, right? Not true believers. You get a bunch of like TikTok like Wiccans and shit going out there saying, "Oh yeah, they're doing it." And that's a trend. That's not faith. That's a trend. That's all that is. They're looking for clicks. They're not looking for anything real. They're not looking for an understanding of who they are, or where they come from, or any of that. You know, um, but we don't advertise for good reason because there was a long dark period of history where the Abrahamics tried to wipe us off the face of the fucking earth, one way or the other, either through conversion or through fire. So we got quiet. We went underground. It was safer, and we survived, but only just. We lost a lot along the way. We lost a lot of culture, tradition, history, knowledge. A lot of it was destroyed or usurped or turned to other purposes. Um, and it was just not a great period, and so we just shut the fuck up, went our own way, and all that stuff. But we don't have exactly like tenets against being friends with somebody who's a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew. That's not a thing. But a lot of us are leery of it because historically we've been enemies. You know, and I should also qualify this. This isn't to paint pagans in some kind of noble light where we never did anything wrong. We got plenty of fucking blood on our hands too. We did some really awful shit. You know, but I guess that kind of paints humanity as a whole in a bad light. But I don't think that's necessarily has anything to do with like your personal belief system. I think we're all just kind of generally shitty to each other. So, yes, Wicca is still around in several forms. Actually, you're probably most familiar with Gardnerian Wicca, which is the more feminist variety of it. Which is really funny because it's actually named after the dude who basically wrote the rules for it. British guy named Gardner back in late 1800s. Around the time Aleister Crowley was getting rolling. So, and Jacob says, I believe it's the Zionists that causes the wars between religions. I think that the wars between religions are caused because they're all fundamentally incompatible with each other because of their specific viewpoints. I don't think it's any one group doing it. I think that certain groups are certainly encouraging it behind the scenes, but it isn't coming out of a vacuum, right? If there was no propensity for it in the first place, no amount of like shadow organizations pushing for it in the background would be able to make it happen. You can't make people do stuff they don't want to do. I think there's something fundamentally about that, and I guess the only like there are obviously a couple of exceptions to that. Like I don't know how much you guys know about Baha'i, which is a faith that originated like Zoroastrianism actually in Iran. Hilariously, we'll bring it back to that. Um, it's basically Islam light. It's like Islam if they took the whole Buddhist all life is sacred kind of ideology and sort of like meshed it in there, you know. And there are Buddhists out there who won't so much as step in an ant accidentally if they can help it because all life is sacred to them. You know, I think that's a little extreme. You can't watch where you're going all the time, or you're not actually going to see what's coming. Um, but I kind of get that. But the Baha'i people are not long for the world, in my opinion. I think sooner or later, one of those faiths over there is going to like win out totally, and then they're going to seek the destruction of everybody else. You know, and then they're going to move out into the wider world, and they're going to have another fight on their hands between them and the atheists who go around pushing communism all the time, who seek the destruction of all faith except faith to the state, who are also the enemies of everybody on the planet. So Goldie Gamari Zoroastrian. I did not know that. Well, again, like I told you the other day, I didn't know anything about her until you mentioned her name, and even then, I still haven't looked her up. But Zoroastrianism is interesting because it's technically a dualist religion, but it is touted as one of the first monotheistic religions because like the main deity is both good and bad, different aspects of kind of the same force. Um, and it is one of the oldest religions on earth that is still being practiced today. Um, it's right up there with the Hindu religion, which has been around for a very, very, very long time, or Judaism, also been around for a very long time, although it's changed forms over the centuries. It's adapted, but it is its roots are very, very old, right? Zoroastrianism, though, predates both of them. And there are other religions from that time period, but most of them are extinct, mostly because the people who practice them are either extinct or have been diluted to a point where they no longer are the same people that they once were, right? Like Egypt, for example. The original Egyptians, well, who we think of as the original Egyptians, the ones with the pharaohs and the hieroglyphs and all that stuff, the elaborate tombs that took fucking 100 years to build. Um, we're not the same people as the people who currently occupy Egypt. People who currently occupy Egypt are Arabs who were not from Egypt. They went to Egypt and they kind of like took it over, but the original Egyptians are long gone. There might be some diluted blood left behind, but there's not much of those original people left. Which is a shame, given how long that their culture thrived, right? Many centuries. They built all kinds of stuff. They did all kinds of things. One of the most impressive of the ancient civilizations. And but then you talk about original Egyptians, and they weren't really the original Egyptians either. If you look at the historical record and the fossil record and all of that stuff, and the fact that the Sphinx is at least 5,000 years older than the fucking pyramids at Giza, which would predate the civilization that built the fucking pyramids. And in fact, is old enough that it appears to have been eroded by moisture and water rather than wind and sand, which means that it's been around long enough to have been there when Egypt was jungle and not desert. And no one on earth has a long enough memory to remember that. So, yeah, it's it is what it is. But my grandmother didn't talk too much about religion. In fact, I don't know that she believed in anything. I don't think she ever said anything about it. My mother believes, very much in her faith, but she was a convert to her religion. Her parents, as far as I know, never practiced any specific one. Um, I don't know too much about that though, because I was pretty young when she died. I was like 7 or 8. And my grandfather followed about 7 years after that. I was 13 or 14 years old when he passed away. And by the time he passed away, he was very difficult to have a conversation with on account of the schizophrenia, and the degenerative brain stuff. So I never really got to know exactly what they believed. And it's not like they didn't really keep journals. They weren't those kinds of people. I mean, they kept logs for their jobs. They were both in the military, but most of that stuff is in the hands of the military, so I don't get to look at it. It just is what it is. Yeah, they never really did that. They just tried to raise up their kids not to be shitheads. and for the most part, they succeeded. I'm a generation after that though, so who knows? JB says I definitely believe in mysticism. I do too. Not so much practicing mysticism or the occult or any of that stuff these days. I haven't for a long time. I'm actually very out of practice. There's a handful of like little rituals that I tend to, daily, but it's more of a routine thing at this point. But I did once. I did practice once, quite a bit, once upon a time. But that doesn't mean that I stopped believing in it. It just means I got lazy, right? It's like somebody says, that they believe Jesus Christ died on the cross for their sins and, is the way to whole eternal salvation. They believe all the stuff. They believe they should love thy neighbor and do good works. And, yada yada, all the things. They believe that, and you can believe that with all your heart. You can still be a lazy person who doesn't attend church on Sundays because you just can't find the time for it or get up early enough. You know? So, um, and that's more or less where I'm at with it. It's just I still believe. I just don't practice as much as I once did. You know, and I don't have like a huge circle of people to practice with. Like I was saying earlier, we're pretty rare, you know, and none of us agree on anything. It's one of the reasons that we laugh so hard about all the Christian denominations because there's so many of them, and all of them think that they're the only way, and that everybody else has got it wrong, right? And it's like, well, only one of you could be right, and it's possible none of you are. You know, but you go around, you tell everybody else that our views are backwards or inaccurate or whatever, and then you can't seem to agree on what a simple single mistranslated or possibly even well translated passage means, right? You take different interpretations away. Some of that's point of view, some of it's, you know, bias, some of it's cultural, whatever. It doesn't matter. Point is until Christians get all their shit together, I don't want to hear another word about how divided and fucking, like, you know, multifaceted paganism is. Same thing with the Muslims. There are a lot more sects than just Sunni and Shia, right? Those are just the two ones that get most of the press, you know, because there's more of them than pretty much everybody else. But there's a bunch of other different sects, most of which are all equally hated by the big two. The big two hate each other. They hate the Jews more. They don't really like the Christians much, but they'll profess like a you know, a whole people of the book. We're all friends here kind of thing, even though I don't believe that they really mean that most of the time. Um, you know, and even Islam or Judaism, sorry, even Judaism is divided, right? I mean, you've got Talmudic, you've got Orthodox, you've got um, the Hasidic, you've got you know, non-practice. You've got a bunch of different ones. You even got Messianic Jews who just refuse to use the word Christian, but basically they are. you know, there's and they all disagree on stuff, and the only saving grace for Judaism in this case, as opposed to Islam and Christianity, both of which claim absolute rigidity, is that Judaism is predicated on being able to ask questions, right? This is one of the very few things I actually really respect about their religion, is that you're encouraged to think about things. You're encouraged to ask questions. You're encouraged to be like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. You're encouraged to make arguments, even if they're stupid fucking arguments, you know, because it helps you work it out. It helps you, you know, I guess, build and maintain your faith. It's a really intriguing concept. I actually really appreciate it quite a bit. It's one of the only religions I've ever seen that encourages you to disagree with orthodoxy until you don't, you know. It's one of the things that also drives me nuts about guys like Fuentes out there going around saying, oh yeah, the Talmud says this, the Talmud says that. I mean, yes, there's such a thing as a Talmudic Jew, but they're kind of insignificant in terms of numbers. And the Talmud itself is not a religious text, right? The Torah is a religious text, and Christians use those same books. They just use more of them than the Torah. The Torah covers the first 5 books of the Bible, of the Old Testament. That's it. That's all it is. There's nothing in there that's different than what's in the Christian Bible, right? Depending on the translation, of course. The Torah or the Talmud is a collection of arguments and thought experiments. It's not religious doctrine at all. You know, so like, yes, there is a passage where one rabbi is shouting that Jesus Christ burns and drowns in excrement and burning hell or whatever. You know, I don't remember the exact phraseology, but it doesn't really matter. It was something that was very offensive to a lot of Christians and whatnot. And he makes that argument, but like you go down a couple more passages and there's another rabbi calling that guy an idiot. You know, so it's just people it's a book of arguments. It's all it's ever been. None of it is law. None of it is holy writ, you know. So when people use the Talmud as an example, it boggles my mind. I was like, first of all, it's a collection of things that were thought by very specific people at very specific periods of history. And some of it is clearly false, and there are even parts where it contradicts itself deliberately, saying, "No, what that guy said is bullshit." And it's not even a coherent text, for crying out loud, you know? So, like, the argument that the Talmud dictates this or that, it doesn't dictate shit. It's never dictated anything, you know? I'm not saying that there aren't people in the religion who take it seriously and live by it or whatever. I'm sure there are. There are zealots in every fucking corner of the world, but by and large is not religious doctrine. So, um, the Quran, on the other hand, is something that isn't even supposed to be translated into languages other than Arabic, and has been, by the way, many times. All of those are technically haram. You know, it wasn't supposed to happen. You're supposed to learn Arabic to read it, not translate it so you can read it in your language, kind of thing. And that alone is apparently taboo in their religion, right? Um, and it is a holy, I suppose holy is subjective to like what your personal beliefs are, but it is a sacred text to them, just like the Bible is to Christians. Like the Book of the Dead is to Tibetan monks. Well, I say the Book of the Dead. There's like four of them in different parts of the world. There was one in Mesoamerica that's totally different. It was just like a collection of myths about the afterlife. There was one in Egypt that was it did hold some mythology in it, but it was mostly a prescription on what to do with the dead, how to hold funerals, how to mummify, how to honor the dead, and all that stuff. It was mostly that kind of thing. And then there's the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which is like philosophy, like high level philosophy, coming from people who live so high up that they don't get enough oxygen to make their brains function right. you know? So there's a few of them, and I think there might even be one, another one somewhere. I'm just not remembering where that might be, but yeah. All right. What's old Blindy saying? So we need to invade Ethiopia and reclaim the Ark, unite the world, and rule over it all. That's assuming that the Ark is in Ethiopia. They don't really know where it is. Supposedly, the Nazis found it during the Third Reich and lost it again. Right. And I'm not talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark. There was rumors that they actually did find it and then lost it again. There's certain things that didn't translate well into modern English as well. So like we don't really have any good idea about what happened to a lot of these relics. Some of those passages could be taken to mean that God removed it from the earth until such time as it was needed again, right? As in he took it home to heaven and then he'll bring it back later, which is, one interpretation. Another is that it was destroyed by, Canaanites or Phoenicians or some shit like that. Some, ancient enemies of the old Hebrews. And then there's rumors that it's popped up in various locations around the world too, or that it's still hidden, like under the Temple of the Mount or something like that. Or under the location of the Temple of the Mount. I think there's a fucking mosque sitting on top of that right now. But so yeah, it just kind of depends on what exactly happened to it, if it was ever real in the first place, or if it was just myth, which it could have been. So, but I don't know why it would have ended up in fucking Ethiopia of all places. It'd be a very strange place. I mean, like, because I could see. So the Romans basically conquered Palestine, what they called Palestine, which is a Roman name for where Israel is, right? An old Roman name. It's not even an Arab name. It's it's Latin. But they conquered all throughout there, so it's entirely possible that the Romans found that. But how it would get from them to Ethiopia, who at the time were ruled by another empire that was actually quite expansive and progressive, and it would be fascinating to find out if it was in fact there, how it got there. Because the Romans don't like to give shit up. So Muslims trying to make America a Muslim country. Well, that was kind of my point. They're trying to make everywhere a Muslim country, not just America. Not just America. Everywhere on earth needs to be Muslim according to them. And if they're not, then they got to die, right? I take issue with that. It's in a warehouse with top men. Top men. It's possible, yeah. Saw a video where there's a guy who's a priest watching over the ark and no one can see it. Huh. I can't say as I've heard that one before, but I suppose it wouldn't be any different than the legend of Percival finding the Grail, right? And never coming home. Was it Percival? Was it Percival or Galahad? I think it was Percival. Arthurian legend is so weird, man. It's so strange because it isn't. It's definitively British, right? But it's not strictly Christian myths. Like there's a lot of old pagan stuff in there too, because it was all, or it takes place all around the time where the transition from the old gods to the new was happening. You know, so it's really, really fascinating stuff. Supposedly King Solomon's son took it, who was also the son of Lady Sheba or something like that of Ethiopia. Really? Huh. I mean, I suppose that presupposes that he would go back to Ethiopia rather than somewhere else, right? But I suppose that would have been possible. You mean Bathsheba? No, Bathsheba would have been David's side piece that he got her husband killed for. I get some of the stories mixed up sometimes. Well, true. And the empire that I mentioned was in fact a Christian empire. You know, and this would have been before Rome converted to Christianity, so they were still pagans at the time. I actually want to bring this up too because I think it's really fucking funny. So, one of the things that delights me is when young men who don't even remember a world before 9/11 go on and on about the glories of Rome and how we need to bring Rome back, and Rome was the peak of all human civilization, and it must be made a thing again. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, almost all of these guys who go around saying this shit to a man, excuse me, are dyed in the wool hardcore Christian conservatives, right? And there's nothing wrong with that because I understand what they're seeing in the glory of ancient Rome because there's something primal about it, something that calls to every man, to a part of our souls. I get it. I do. But what I don't get and what tickles my innards, I should say, is the fact that it wasn't Christians who built Rome. It wasn't. Rome was an empire in decline by the time Christianity took hold, and in fact was one of the only reasons Christianity was able to take hold. Everything great they did before that. You know, all the roads, the aquifers, or aqueducts rather, you know, bringing civilization to the dark corners of the earth, right? All the bad shit they did too, but Rome itself was built by butt-fucking pagans. Christians didn't build Rome, but they did break it. The decline accelerated when Constantine converted and then demanded everybody else did, and then moved his capital from Rome to Byzantium, which he rechristened Constantinople, modern day Istanbul for those who don't listen to They Might Be Giants. It was pagans who built Rome. It was pagans who connected the world via roads and trade. It wasn't Christians. They didn't do that. They took some things, they learned some lessons from that, and obviously the British Empire was more founded on their stuff than anything else, and they were able to spread out to the world, and they were in large part Christian, but the people who showed them how to do that were pagans. Just saying. And a lot of them were really into butt fucking. You know, I'm just putting that out there. You know, it was a very, very normal thing in the empire at the time. That and rampant pedophilia and incest and all kinds of other ugly shit. A lot of them were fucking horses. It was a whole thing. You know, Rome was a nasty place. It really was. Peak of human civilization. Sure. Okay. Bring it. Let's go ahead and bring that back. You know, and they did some great things. They really did. They did some really ugly things too. And there was a lot of mediocre periods where not a whole lot happened. You know, I mean they were around for quite a while, right? And they were in decline for the better part of 1,000 years. You know, so I don't know. I mean, I kind of get the point. I just think it's always funny when like young Christian conservatives are like, they were the best ever. I was like, they were gay pagans. You know, it's like the Christian shit didn't happen till off after all the glory that you're seeking already occurred. So it is what it is, I guess. You know, same thing with the great dynasties of China, right? That civilization's been alive and kicking for a very long time. You know, some of the oldest cities in the world that are still operating today as cities with people living in them, built by Hindus, also pagan. You know, the Egyptians, very pagan. You know, and these were all like civilizations. You know, hell, even the Persian Empire. The Persian Empire was a vast empire, and they were extraordinarily progressive and I don't mean progressive in the modern sense that is basically a four-letter word. I mean that they were very forward thinking in terms of like technology and society and that kind of thing. And they were not above incorporating other people's stuff into their own culture if it made their culture better, right? They'd keep out the bad shit that didn't make their culture better, and they'd incorporate new things that did. They also didn't force people to convert or any of that stuff. You don't have to like believe in our. You can keep your all of your stuff. All you got to do is pay his taxes, right, and go to war when we call. That's it. That's all they ever asked of their subjects that they conquered. You know, and this, of course, was way before the Ayatollah or the Shah or whatever. But the Persians built a hell of a civilization too. Also pagans. Just saying. So yeah, I just it just is really funny to me that we look back and we blind ourselves to things that were, you know, so that we only see what we want to see. And this is true of everybody. This isn't true of you know, the most diehard leftist, nose ring wearing, blue haired, land whale, you know, suffragette shouting, you know, nonsense into the wind, thinking that anybody outside of this little blue sphere of ours, hurtling on the western spiral arm of the galaxy, cares. You know, it's true of them too. It's like they look back and they're like, "Oh no, it was really this way." It's like when they talk about slavery and like, "Oh my God, Western slavery and the transatlantic slave trade and white people bad and America bad and America had more slaves than anybody and they were the worst ever at it ever." None of that is true because they're ignoring the entire history of the fucking planet, right? The entire history of the planet. You know, we'll be talking a little bit more about that on Saturday. I found a video that kind of breaks down some numbers that are probably not 100% accurate, but they're close enough. This makes no difference in the long run. You know, when you're talking like in the millions, right? You know, couple 100,000 here and there is really doesn't make that much of a difference in the historical scheme of things. Um, I'm sure it did personally to those people, but statistically, not so much. But that's the fact is slavery was practiced by every culture everywhere in the world. The name comes from a group of white people who were enslaved so much that their name just became associated with being enslaved. You know, um, In fact, I would say probably the worst perpetrators of slavery throughout history have been, historically speaking, the Middle East, which brings us back to that other thing, and they're still practicing it today in many places, and I'm talking like buying people at fucking auction blocks kind of slavery. You go to certain countries, to work for a person, they will take your passport and burn it so you can't leave. It's just China's really bad about it. They've got slaves right now. They've got people in fucking concentration camps being worked to death right now. Ironically, those people are Muslims. I mean, they have others too, but like the big one, the Uyghurs. I don't remember the name of the province. It's one of the northeast province or northwest provinces, Xinhua or some shit like that. But they got something like 7 or 8 massive camps full of these people, and they're working them to death. And when they die, they get carved up and their organs get sold to the Middle East because they're halal. Because, if you were a Saudi prince, you can't just have any old organ implanted in your body. It's got to be pure. It's got to be halal, right? Well, where do you think they get those from? They buy them from China. And yeah, that's just a massive amount of slave labor, not to mention all of the sweatshops with all of the children making, our little cell phones and our shoelaces and, whatever else we need over here, made by like, 4, 5, 6-year-olds, tiny fingers. They work them to the bone and then they fucking toss them out, or they carve them up for organs too. China's an ugly fucking place these days. I mean, aesthetically, from the outside, it's very pretty. It's very green in certain areas and all of that. But the soul of the place is rotten, I think. Yeah, slavery's slavery's been around almost as long as prostitution has. Like slave traders, like the 5th oldest profession on earth. So, and it's probably not going anywhere. The only ones who ever saw fit to outlaw it and then to enforce it were white nations, starting with the Brits, followed very shortly by the U.S. And I think Canada or Australia, I forget which. But yeah, everywhere else, they've either been made to stop by outside forces like the British Empire, or they never did. They never did stop. And they're not going to, I mean, hell, it was us. It was the U.S. It was my country that broke the back of the Barbary slave trade. And we weren't going to lift a finger to make them stop until they fucked with our boats and took our people. And then we went and we dismantled their entire operation, which is why the United States Marine Corps and the Navy exist in the first place, by the way. Your college told me the U.S. invented slavery. Your college lied to you, buddy. They lied. And then the worst part is they know they lied. They know it. They know it's a lie. I want you to feel bad about shit that you didn't do. Yeah, Jacob, I agree. Support kids. It's an awful thing. Kind of makes you wonder too. What was it? Something like 300,000 kids disappeared. Migrant kids, immigrant kids disappeared on the borders during the 4 years Biden was in office. What happened to those kids? Where did they go? Nobody's looking for them, by the way. They're just gone. What happened to them? Are any of them still alive, first of all? Would be my first question. And secondly, I imagine that quite a few of them got sold. A lot of them probably to perverts. In some cases, though, I'm sure they ended up in places like Chinese sweatshops. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's an awful thing. On islands, lots of islands. Hi, Lepo, good to see you. I agree. I think everybody's focused on this Epstein Island, and I think they should be. I think they should be. A lot of awful shit happened there apparently, um, and people who participated in that need to be punished severely. But I'm under no illusion that it was the only operation by any stretch of the imagination. I'd wager there are probably at least 5 to 9 more of those islands around the world engaging in the exact same activities. That was just the one that happened to get thrown under the bus. You know, I think Diddy's operation was probably fairly similar, probably following the same protocols, probably working for the exact same people. But again, I don't think they're the only ones, and I don't think we're ever going to find all of them. And I hate that. You know, I don't know for a fact that Tom Hanks actually. I mean, he has an island. Sure, sure. That's what's going on the island. I can't definitively say that one way or the other. I've never been there myself, and obviously nobody's bringing any proof to the table. But I'd believe it. You know, I could absolutely believe that that's exactly what he's doing out there. Might not be. I don't know. It's alleged, but yeah. This took a turn, didn't it? Well, it is what it is, I guess. Oh, hey, my chair finally corrected. Does this thing. So I got this cheap ass office chair from like fucking Walmart, right? Put it together. I've been using it for a couple of years now. The padding on the armrest is starting to wear off, and you know, it is what it is. But sometimes it's supposed to recline, right? Sometimes it gets locked into place though, and I can't figure out how to fucking fix it. And then eventually it unlocks itself or whatever. And it just did. And I'm very happy because sitting upright is not good for my back on account of I slouched my whole life. It's very uncomfortable for me to sit with good posture. Good posture is for those who have it, and I do not. What's up, Clue? Good to see you, man. Good to see you. So he must be replaying Big all the time. I mean, you know what's funny about Big, right? Everybody thought that was an innocent movie. Actually, if you go back, you watch a lot of Tom Hanks stuffs. There's some weird shit in a lot of those movies. But Big in particular, because they don't just tease the whole like, hey, I'm a 12-year-old in a 30-year-old's body, and I'm gonna go, hang out with this hot older broad who just thinks I'm the shit and all that. No, I'm reasonably certain. It's been a minute since I've seen it, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm reasonably certain Kim Cattrall sleeps with him in that movie, right? And even though he looks like an adult, he's not an adult. You know, and that's it puts a different spin on that whole thing when you really think about it. And then there's the Burbs, which is on the surface an enjoyable, fun little creep fest, but given some stuff that we've heard rumors of for years now, it kind of makes the Burbs seem like, hey, this is my tell-all confession, doesn't it? You know, so yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Fucking Joe versus the Volcanoes about human sacrifice, right? There's another Hanks movie. You know, it's there's some weird shit in his filmography. It's weird shit that normally I wouldn't necessarily think twice about because he's just an actor, and most of those were comedies and stuff. Hell, even when they redid Dragnet, he was in that, right? There was a mask wearing cult in that movie. You know, so that he dressed up and played along with. You know, that was yeah. Looking back, there's a lot of weird shit in some of his movies. Castaway is one of the worst for a couple of reasons. Number one, the face that he paints on Wilson. I'm not going into details with this because it fucking disgusts me and I don't like thinking about it. And also, there's only so much you can say without putting alleged in front of it. And I would never encourage anyone to go on the dark web and look up that image. But if you did, you would see what I'm talking about. But again, not encouraging anybody to do that. It's all right, fuck it. We're just gonna say it. YouTube gets my ass. That face appears in one form or another in various like pendants and paintings and T-shirts and face paintings and various things throughout Hollywood. You can look it up. It's all over the fucking place, right? A lot of people who seem to be hanging out with the same groups in the same places at the same times all seem to be wearing a form of that at some point or another. It is a reference to a video that circulated on the dark web for a while and it probably is still out there. I do not recommend watching. I did not make it all the way through it years ago. And it appears to depict certain people in cultish garb peeling the face off a 12-year-old girl who was alive and unanesthetized, and then wearing her face around while she is screaming. And one of the people who is in this alleged video, or allegedly in this video, I don't even know how to put this. In the video, it depicts people. Whether or not it's real, I don't know for sure. I tend to believe that it is because it's just sickening. Anyway, one of the people who's performing the ritual is Hillary Clinton. Yeah, the Wilson face, Aaron Laura. Yeah. And it's out there if you go looking for it. I do not recommend watching it at all. There's some dark shit on the dark web. But that face seems to be the Wilson face. It seems to be the universal symbol. I mean, they even have like fucking lapel pins of that face. Let people know they're all in the club. They're all in on what went down or what goes down. And it's pretty horrifying stuff. And the fact that he made a movie that blatantly just placed it out there, right, leads me to believe that he may be more involved in certain nefarious activities than he wants people to believe in general, or that he's willing to cop to. I don't know. Maybe it was just an aesthetic choice. It's entirely possible that all this is alleged and he's not really involved in any of this stuff, but it certainly kind of looks like it to me from the outside. The other crime that was committed by Castaway was the rest of the movie. And this is gonna take a turn y'all probably didn't expect it to take, but that movie is the longest, most boring, most uninteresting tale of survival and heroism that I have ever seen. It is a complete slog to get through. I can't even sleep through it. It's so goddamn mind-numbingly boring. It is one of the worst films ever fucking made. The only part that's exciting as all is the beginning when he gets in the plane and it crashes. That's it. The rest of it sucks. It's terrible. It's a fucking awful movie. And that's all I got to say about that. In the words of Forrest Gump, that's all I have to say about that. Because it's so boring. It's obviously Oscar bait. It obviously did very well there, but it's a fucking terrible movie. I'd rather watch. No, I would not. I would not watch either one of them. Given my druthers, I would rather watch some of the shitty movies that I watch for fun. Well, I'd rather watch those anyway because they're fun, because those people have not, they know what they're doing is not high art. They know they're in it to entertain. They know that that's the purpose of it. And they're under no illusions that it's anything other than what Kurt Russell referred to as the court jester, right? It's there to entertain. It's there to be fun. It's there to, just be a thing that you enjoy, and then you move on. It's not supposed to be this elaborate think piece, this Oscar bait nonsense, this, oh my God, it's high art. I don't know, it's not high art, man. You're making a fucking movie, and you just made a 3-hour slogfest with a guy masturbating on an island. So it's like that's not a good film. I'm sorry. It's just not. But as far as like watching the Twilight movies instead, absolutely not. There is a limit to what I will put into my brain that it's just rotten nonsense, right? And that's right there at the top of the fucking list. Just because they're holy shit, what they do to vampire and werewolf lore alone should consider them a crime against all fiction ever. It's just the worst. It's just the worst, man. There's so much bad shit that gets so much good press, and I don't understand it. And there's so much like good bad shit out there that nobody even knows about because they don't know where to find it. And it's like, hey, here's a really bad movie about a guy who goes to Mexico, gets bit by a frog, and his butt grows to like 20 feet. And then when he gets back to the city, his butt goes around and kills a bunch of people and frames the rest of him for it. Right now, on the surface, that is a ridiculous premise. Absolutely ridiculous. But you know what? It's not boring. It's not boring at all. It's very entertaining. You know? So it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm saying you got to go out of your way, Jacob, to find the good stuff, right? Like I saw this movie that had some progressive shit in it and some like virtue signaling shit in it. A couple of was it last year or year before? I don't remember. That was very recent, right? But the rest of the movie was so ridiculously hilariously and entertaining that I didn't care that it had all that shit in it. It didn't matter because it was a fun fucking movie. It's called Slaughterhouse, by the way. It's about a murderous sloth in a sorority. It's really fucking funny, and I highly recommend it. But it's one of the few new movies that nobody ever heard of that I actually really enjoyed. And you know why I enjoyed it? Because it didn't take itself seriously at all. I mean, there's a bit where the sloth finds out that one of its victims that it tricked into walking in front of a fucking speeding car didn't quite die, right? So it steals a car and figures out how to drive real quick and then drives to the hospital to smother her with a pillow. I mean, that's hilarious. Yes, sloth. Like a three-toed sloth from the Amazon. You know, like that's really, really funny to me. That whole premise is just on the surface, just ridiculously stupid. I mean, at one point, it rolls a bitch up in her sleeping bag and tosses her off and just like rolls her off a second story balcony. You know, it's and you'd think because it's a sloth and it has these like long ass claws that would just be like hacking people up to death real slow, right? No, no, it does all kinds of. It learns how to scroll Instagram just to take selfies with its victims and post them. It's such a fucking stupid movie, but it was fun. It was entertaining. you know, and I think we need more of that. We need more of that. We need people to be making stuff. Like this is one of the things. Like I don't even care. There was some agenda in it. So what? There was some um stereotypes that are pretty common these days in it. So what? The none of that mattered in the long run. I even watched recently. There was a film with Heather Graham and Barbara Crampton, and if you guys know anything about like the history of horror, particularly cosmic horror in movies, Barbara Crampton is a fucking legend. Um, but called Suitable Flesh, right? And it's a sort of a modernized for a modern audience's version of H.P. Lovecraft's The Thing on the Doorstep, right? Which is about body swapping. And they kind of they put a very kind of feminist in control spin on it, but honestly, it doesn't really matter because the essence of the story is the same, and they do it well enough that I didn't really care about any of that shit. It didn't matter, Plus, the villain is not something that gets quantified all that easily anyway, so it's fine. Um, and I enjoyed the shit out of it. I really did. It was a fun fucking movie. You know, they didn't take it too seriously, but they didn't treat it like it was super camp or anything like that. It just landed in that nice, entertaining niche in the middle. You know, ever watched the low budget soft? Some are really funny, even with the in your Facebook. You know what? It was is really funny is like back in the day, right? When they used to write like actual scripts for these things, some of those scripts were surprisingly clever and hilarious. Like on occasion they'd actually have a plot that was worth watching. So I totally get it, man. Yeah, but yeah, man. So like there's stuff out there. There is stuff out there. You just gotta like I guess sift through all the garbage that comes your way. And pretty much like if you have any streaming services or whatever, the only like 8 things you're ever gonna see on the main page are gonna be the things that they want people to watch, right? You have no idea how vast Netflix's actual database actually is, right? But you have to dig. You have to get past that surface. You have to start like searching for like random shit. Um, most of these streaming services, Amazon has a vast array of stuff that almost nobody's ever seen, right? Just because it gets buried in the algorithm because they're like, oh, you definitely got to watch Reacher. So we're gonna put that on every line item. Reacher this, Reacher that. And Reacher might be great. I don't know. I didn't watch it, but it isn't the only thing available, and I'd really rather the algorithm stopped acting like it was. You know? So that's why I like sites like Tubi. Tubi has the most ridiculous array of little known, cheesy, schlocky, bad movies, B movies, whatever that you've ever seen in your life. They also have some real gems in there. Like for instance, a couple of months ago, Larry and I talked about, and I think Devil was there for this too. We were talking about the thing, right? And then we talked about the thing that's the prequel. That's not really a prequel. It's anyway the 2011 thing versus the 1982 thing. And a lot of people don't know this, although we've spoken about it on the channel before. John Carpenter's version is actually a remake of an older movie called The Thing from Another World, which is in turn based on a short story. I forget the author's name, but the short story is called Who Goes There? It came out in like the 1940s, right? 1930s or 40s. And anyway, that version is on Tubi, The Thing from Another World, and it's pretty good. It's not as good as Carpenter's version, but it's pretty good. If you don't mind black and white movies. I know there's a lot of people out there who are like, oh, I won't watch anything that's in black and white. And I think you're missing out, but okay. I think there's some really good stuff in black and white that you're just not seeing because you're afraid of the color scheme, I guess. So, but that's a shame because there's some good stuff out there. And this it's up there. It's one of the good ones. I like that movie quite a bit. It's a little hard to keep pace with because all of the dialogue is real rapid fire, right? If you don't have like subtitles on, sometimes it's a little hard to follow because they're just like boom, one line, boom, one line, boom, one line, and it can be they do that kind of like 50s radio style, where they're talking like this the whole time, sir, kind of thing. So it's a whole different cadence that we're not used to in the current era. But it's worth getting through, in my opinion, among many other things. So, funniest movie is Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I will agree that it's up there, man. I love Tucker and Dale versus Evil. That is a great fucking movie. And I don't usually go in for this like subvert your expectations trope, right? Where they turn everything on its head and it's like, oh, it's really this thing over here, even though haha, the trope is the other way. But that movie was awesome. Just awesome. Like even the stuff that they clearly flubbed, right, was really hilarious, and I'm glad they included it in there. Like the fact that they're skinny dipping when Allison gets captured, right? And the blonde chick in the stripper heels pops out, and she's not wearing a shirt. You can see her big fake tits just floating on the water while she screams and waves her arms around. Ah, the next thing you see is them running back to camp, and everybody's wet and in their underwear. Except her, she is fully dressed, has her stripper heels on, and she is dry as a bone. And she's like, we just came from the lake. They didn't, bitch. You stopped for a fucking sandwich, clearly. Oh man, that was a great fucking movie, man. I love it. It was really good. you know, um, but yeah, I mean, occasionally you run across. I was doing this thing a couple years ago where I was trying to find like newer movies made post 2016 that didn't suck, right? It didn't weren't just so full of agenda that the story wasn't worth fucking trying to find. Um, and I did run into a handful of them. I can only think of two off the top of my head that are coming to mind during this period, but one of them was called Vengeance, and it was a weird little story. It had oh, I can't remember his name, BJ Novak, the guy who basically created the American version of The Office. He basically wrote and directed this whole thing. It had him. Um, it had the blonde guy from Narcos was in it. Um, I had Ashton Kutcher in it for a little while too. And essentially, it's about this New Yorker who wants to do a podcast, right? Like a limited run podcast, like so many hours, and then they'll release it, and that'll be that. And he can't figure out what he wants to do it on. Well, he gets this call from his family in Texas. And they're saying that, yeah, this girl, she's always talking about you. You said you were her world. You were just so awesome to her and all that stuff. She passed away, and we'd really like you to come be at her funeral and all that. And he can't remember who they're talking about because it was like a fucking 1 or 2 night stand, right? Just flew by because he's like one of those New York socialite types. And so he goes back because he finally figures out who she is, but he doesn't really remember her. Didn't really know her very well, even though she apparently told her family that he was like the light of her life or whatever. So he goes back to Texas and he gets involved in their family and he gets involved in trying to figure out why she died and how. And it's a really, really, that's all I'm going to say about it because it's awesome. It's really good. I highly recommend you guys go see it. But it's a subtly, like there's something just under the surface kind of drama, right? Like there's something sinister just under the idyllic surface of things, and it's really well put together and really well done. I very much enjoyed that one. And another one, Taylor Sheridan movie that kind of went under the radar was called Hell or High Water, and it had Chris Pine and Ben Foster as brothers who were robbing banks in East Texas or West Texas. It was West Texas. And Jeff Bridges was the old Texas Ranger or U.S. Marshal, I forget which, who was out there trying to catch him. And it is a very tense, very interestingly put together modern Western. I really enjoyed that one too. Also came out after 2016. So I'd recommend both of those any day. I enjoyed the fuck out of both of them. They were great, right? But almost nobody knew about them. I think probably more people knew about Hell or High Water than not. But even then, it still kind of went under the radar. Not a mention at award ceremonies or nothing. I've never heard anybody recommend it. I've seen a couple of reactors do it, but very few of them. And I think it's a shame. I think it's a very good movie. And Vengeance. I heard about Vengeance offhand from another YouTuber, Nina Infinity, was talking about how she saw it and she thought it was really great. And I guess I just remembered the name. So when the opportunity came up and it showed up, I was like, shit, I'll take a chance. I'll watch this, see what happens. She and I don't agree on everything in terms of what's good and what isn't. But I figured, I've never heard of this. Let's check it out. And it was really good. It was worth watching. I enjoyed it. So, there's stuff out there. You just got to be willing to sift through the garbage to get to it, I guess. And I'm like most of you guys. I will stick with things that I know over things that I don't. 9 times out of 10, it's pretty rare that I'll take a chance on something like that. But every once in a while I do, and sometimes it's worth it. So that's about all I have to say about that, I guess. I don't know what's gotten into me. I'm feeling very Forrest Gump tonight. It's a strange thing. Yes, Ali's son. All my friends call me Allie. Allie, son. I love the fact that the board game they're playing is called Trivia Up. That's really funny to me. I grew up with in a house that played Trivial Pursuit. I don't know if you guys can tell. Let's make our own movie. Pedro Pascal is an unpopular high schooler. Is this going to be like a never been kissed scenario, or is it going to be more like she's all that? Because I could go either way with this, man. I don't know if we should do the never been kissed thing. That'll get a little creepy, right? He's like 50. But it'd be pretty funny if he was doing the she's all that thing, like they made him up and all that. Or even better, because she's all that was basically just an update of My Fair Lady, right? Which is about a couple of rich people who bet that they can or can't take this scruffy street maid and turn her into a lady of high society, which is pretty good too, by the way. Older movie though. Yeah, we could do something like that. That'd be pretty funny. But nothing like no teen sex romp with him because like that dude's fucking creepy enough in real life. You know, unless he's playing the blow up doll, and then that's I don't know why, but that's funny to me. We could get Steve Buscemi to play the other teen, quote unquote. That guy seems like he's got a sense of humor. Might as well put him in it too. Oh man. All right, folks. I think I do not want to be the one that Pascal gets a kiss from. Yeah, that's kind of why I was thinking Steve Buscemi would be good. Yeah, because he'd do it. He'd do it because he's got a sense of humor about shit. Is he really gay or just an act? He sure loves to touch women. I don't really care because whether he's gay or not, he shouldn't necessarily be touching people like he touches people. Fawning all over him. And I know they're all like, "Oh well, he really just needed me to support him in that moment. He's just got this anxiety, and oh, I was happy to do it." It's like, not in the moment you weren't, bitch. I've seen the pictures. You all look extraordinarily dismayed and uncomfortable every goddamn time. Even Sarah Paulson, I might add, who claims to have been his close personal friend for the better part of 30 years, right? Even she looked uncomfortable, right? And that's hard to do for her because she's sort of got permanent resting bitch face. Not to knock her acting ability. Sarah Paulson is a fantastic actress, but she does kind of have like this sort of default resting bitch face. So it is sort of hard to tell how she feels in a given moment on the red carpet. Yeah. Well, the fact is we're not going to be having to see that a whole lot longer anyway, because first of all, this whole wicked craze is going to like blow over pretty soon, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to go much further than it already has. Um, Secondly, I think they're both going to die of malnutrition soon. At least they kind of look like that. Like I've seen starving African kids with more meat on their bones. Yeah. So it's like, seriously, bitches out there, Ozempic is not your friend. Eat a goddamn sandwich. You're going to die. Stop it. Eat something. A burger. Protein is good for you. Do something. Fucking Robert Downey Jr. was looking like that for a long time too. I think somebody finally convinced him to have a burger, but he was all, "Oh, I'm going vegan and all this stuff." And then all of a sudden he looked like a sallow ghoul himself. Same thing happened to Kevin Smith after he had his heart attack, got his stomach stapled or whatever. And then he just went full vegan because his psychotic daughter guilt tripped him into it. And now he looks like a shell of a man. Very unhealthy. And that's the thing. When somebody gets fit, that's one thing, right? But you can always tell that they're healthy, right? You can always tell if they're healthy or not. There's a certain glow about a healthy person that a sick person or a sickly person does not have, right? When your eyes are sunken with dark circles, that's not healthy, right? When your cheekbones are basically sucked in, you look like skeleton with their skin stretched ever so tightly over the bone. It's not healthy. It's not good, you know. And there's only a couple of ways to get like that, and one of them is malnutrition. I should probably put up the not medical advice, but seriously, fucking eat a sandwich. you know, have a banana and a burger, some whole milk. It'll do your body good. You know, they do. They look like they're dying, and it's really sad to see. I don't like to see anybody fucking suffering needlessly, and they are suffering needlessly. I know they think they've got good fucking reasons for it, but it's retarded, in my opinion. So, hi, Darlene. Welcome in. Welcome in. You might not have been to one of these before. This is me just kind of ranting and chatting with the audience. So, and currently I'm on a don't do Ozempic kick. So, yeah. But I mean, actually, you know what? You bring up a good point, Aaron. So Kevin Smith could, in fact, look like a ghost at this point because I'm pretty sure that all of that loose skin from when he was huge is still there. Because you notice he still wears all the oversized clothes all the damn time, right? He could probably stretch the skin out on his sides and glide at this point, just because his body's so fucking shrunken down, but the skin didn't really have time to contract like it should, like healthy skin would, right? That man is not healthy. He's going to die. He's going to die. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday and for the rest of his life. That's right. That's all the bogey you're gonna get from me tonight, though. A little bit of Casablanca for you there. Speaking of great black and white films, yes, and Glide, and Glide. Oh man, it's a sad world. I understand. It's a weird thing. It's like kind of going back to that whole Tom Hanks, like Hollywood's a cult thing. It seemed like a bunch of Hollywood all got the memo all at the same time. Because you remember it was just like 2 years ago, they were just like, "Fat is fabulous. Be as fat as you possibly can because it's the best thing ever. It's super healthy. It's super sexy. It's super all the things." And it wasn't any of those things, but they were certainly pushing the idea that it was. And then somebody brought Ozempic to the mix, and now it's like they all got the memo, and they're just like, okay, now being a lich is the sexiest, healthiest thing ever, and we're just going to stop talking about fat people. Yeah. So, hey, Carrie, good to see you, man. Um, some is, yeah. Some of the news is I do Ozempic parties. Yeah, I know, right? Like, I don't know who needs to hear this out there. Ozempic is meth. Straight up. It's meth. That's what it is. I think they toned down some of the hyperactive effects of that drug, but the rest of it still seems to be operating as intended, as an appetite suppressant. You know. Also, some of them look like they haven't slept in weeks. Ariana Grande, I'm looking at you. You look dead on your feet, girl. Eat a sandwich, get some sleep, or you're gonna die. So, yeah, we touched on that earlier, Carrie. We touched on that earlier. I haven't seen all of it. I've just heard things here and there, but maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. We'll see. You know, I don't know that I trust much of any of the news coming out of that region of the world at all. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if the Iranian people win their freedom from the Iranian government, great. Good for them. That's awesome. I'm happy for them. If they don't, nothing changes on my end. Not a damn thing. So, yeah, no worries, man. No worries. It is what it is. I don't know how much longer we're going to go. We've been doing this an hour and a half now, and I did say at the top that it probably wouldn't be a long one, but I've kind of gone longer than I intended anyway. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Yeah, let's definitely stop with the Ozempic shit. Like, and look, if some of these people get healthy, they lose some weight, they get trimmer and whatnot. What's I can't Rebel Wilson, that's her name, Rebel Wilson. Played Fat Amy in the Pitch Perfect movies, right? She got a lot healthier looking, and as far as I can tell, she did it relatively normally with diet and exercise, right? She looks way better than she did, certainly. And then a lot of these other chicks who are losing massive amounts of weight who look like they're dying, she doesn't look like she's dying. And they gave her shit for that, right? What was that singer's name? Adele did the same thing, right? She lost a bunch of weight and got a lot healthier and started like an exercise regimen and started taking care of herself better, right? And they gave her shit for that. I don't see why they should do that or why they did that. It's aside from the fact that some of them are, jealous, and some of them like propping people up so they can tear them down. The whole thing's fucked. The whole thing's kind of fucked. And like as far as I'm concerned, for Rebel and Adele, there, good for you guys. You guys are doing well. You probably added years to your lives. You know, it's good for you. People should be proud of you for that. I don't see why they wouldn't be. So yeah, I'd agree. You don't want to like drop it all at once. I mentioned Kevin Smith earlier. He dropped it too fast, and now his skin will never snap back into place because it just was kind of shocked into sagging. Right. In fact, if one were morbidly inclined, one could say, I don't know that would, but one could say that Kevin Smith is a prime candidate for Buffalo Bills meat dress at this point. You know? So yeah, that's 100%. That's 100%. And there's also the fact that everybody's metabolism is different. Nobody ever takes that shit into account. They're like, well, it's working for this guy, but not for this guy. Why isn't it working for this guy? It's like because he's got a different body chemistry. And he's got to figure out the different things in his body chemistry in order to make that shit work. Right. And yeah, there are people out there with thyroid problems who are never going to lose the weight. It's never going to happen. It just can't happen with them. There are other people out there who have extremely high metabolisms who are never going to gain the weight. It's never going to happen. They do exist, but they're fucking outliers generally. Usually you just got to figure out what your body chemistry is. Right. And you've got to tailor your regimen and your habits to that. And most of the time you'll come out ahead, you know. But yeah, like Darlene's right. You don't want to like just jump into that shit. So that's an image. I don't mean to be mocking you there a little bit, but yeah, I get that. But just the way you put that, man. Well, I dropped too fast, went from 240 to 145 in 10 months. Great for health, but the back of my arms way below before my hands do. That's I get it. It is honest. That's true. You know, some clever wordplay there. Good fun. So yeah, like you can. She described that in such a way that you can like picture that almost perfectly, right? And some people just have the gift of like painting pictures with the words. I sometimes am able to do that myself, but that was a near perfect example of that because I can see it. The second I read that, I could see it. So it's just again, Aaron, I don't mean to be, I'm not trying to mock you. It's just the image is kind of funny in my head and now it's stuck there and it's not going away. That's what I'm focused on now. It's we're in this room and that's where we are now. End of story. Yeah, just I don't know. I don't even know why I'm fucking sitting here shouting out advice to people who are never going to listen to this show. By the way, um, that I'm probably never going to encounter in life. You know, people that I don't normally even think about generally. So, but whatever. If you're out there and you're doing this Ozempic shit, just know you're a meth head and that you should probably get some professional fucking help and a sandwich. So just putting that out there. Planting seeds, as Bill Hicks would say. Planting seeds. Oh, all right, folks. I think I'm probably gonna wrap it up about here. I just had a coughing fit that you guys didn't have to listen to, but I think it's just gonna get worse. So end up with more pauses than moments of verbosity. So and all that, but appreciate you guys stopping by, hanging out with us. This is the last Whispering in the Dark for the year. The title is a bit of a mislead. I admit. I was thinking more about like, reflecting on the last year, or where are we going from here, all that shit. And honestly, to be honest with you, I don't really give a shit. We're here now in this moment. That's the important thing. I'm gonna leave the title up as it is though, because fuck it. But yeah, this was good. This was fun. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. We'll be back with another one of these in January. We're going to continue this trend. It's now been a year of doing monthly Whispering in the Darks, and I'm pretty happy with how it's going so far. So we'll also be back on Friday with Abyssal Musings. It will be quiz night. First quiz night of the new year. So tune in for that. We will also have Screaming to the Void this weekend, and I need to double check, but we may have a guest this weekend as well for that. I need to confirm is what I need to do. It's a whole thing. I'm very bad at this shit, but it is what it is. And then otherwise you can catch me on Beelzebub, on Devil's Channel Beelzebub. You can catch me. We are picking up, officially got the word yesterday. We're picking up with Stream of Conscious on Adam the Renaissance Nerd's channel next Monday. So we'll be over there then. And hopefully, if she doesn't postpone it again, Exiled Lioness 2 this Saturday night. We'll be going live, and I'll be there for you. Otherwise, game streams, usual shit. We'll be playing probably a lot of Star Trek Online until the end of January. At which point we'll be playing Code Vein 2 for a while. There's a couple other things coming out in the next year that we'll probably be streaming live as well. And at least one game that I really want to stream live, but I'm pretty sure will get me kicked off of YouTube forever. So we won't be doing that. And all that. We're doing guests on occasion. Yeah, on occasion. I'm talking to... I don't want to announce who it is this week, just in case it isn't confirmed and it doesn't work out. But yeah, we're trying for guests again. Had one last week, Ardent Party. He was great. He'll be coming back on a show at some point, and all that. But yeah, we're occasionally doing the guests again. It just sort of depends on how it works out, really. So I'm not great about reaching out to people. Luckily, I have a gal who is. So it is what it is. I appreciate it, Aaron. Thank you for being here, doing all the things. All y'all, thank you for coming in and hanging out with me tonight. Appreciate it. So we'll have a great night, everybody. We'll see y'all soon. And remember, it could always be worse. It could be raining flaming cobras. Bye, everybody.